But anyway, so I just feel that. And then this one.
All rise. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. This meeting of the Washington County Board of Commissioners is now in session pursuant to adjournment. The Honorable Chairman Greg Matherly presiding. Come to order and remain standing.
Thank you, Sheriff. Our first order of business this evening is our pledge, which will be led by Commissioner Huffine. And tonight we'll be honoring Commissioner Ford as he will be calling for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Gather here today because of this beautiful weather. We ask that you watch over and deliberate. Please.
Sorry about that.
All right. Commissioner Huffine, if you'll go ahead and.
To the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll remain standing for the prayer. Commissioner Huffine.
Let's start with a moment of silence in remembrance of Mike. Dear Lord, we come before you tonight with humble praise for all the blessings you bestow upon us. We have heavy hearts for the void in this room. But Lord, we know Mike is in heaven with you, and for that we rejoice. Lord, please show us the path to follow and give us the strength to stay the course, so when that day comes, we will join him in his celebration. Lord, as we begin a new year, give us your knowledge and wisdom to conduct our business here tonight and every day in the way that will be pleasing to you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the roll call screen, please. You'll go ahead and indicate your presence here this evening. It's nothing like starting off the meeting with a dead battery. All right, we do have a quorum. We have 13 present and 2 absent. Our next item is approval of the agenda. We do have several items that we need to do some agenda correction. First one is the John Abe Teague and Vicky Teague property was requested to be removed from this month's agenda and placed on next month's agenda. And that was by the property owner at his request to the zoning administrator. Also, if you look at our agenda, you'll see an executive session at the end of the meeting. The executive session will need to move under the county attorney's report instead at the end of the meeting because there could be some possible action that we'll need to take before we would adjourn. So it would probably be better to go ahead and handle that executive session under the county attorney's report. Is there anything else, Ms. Wilkinson?
No, sir.
All right.
Everything.
Right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with the recommended changes? Motion made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Edens to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. And the amended agenda is amended and approved. We'll go ahead and move into our public comment portion. Under the public comment, each individual shall be given 3 minutes to address the board regarding agenda items. Comments shall be limited to the items that appear on the meeting agenda. Our first speaker for public comment is Tammy. Help me, Tammy. Oligny. Tammy, if you'll come forward to the podium, please. If you'll give your name or your just address to the clerk.
112 Paytown Road, Telford.
All right, let me get my. All right, Tammy, go ahead.
I'm here to petition for the right-of-way that's on my property. It goes across my back of my property and across 3 other neighbors. I've gone through the ranks up from the highway department, and they have found that it was just a paper road, they called it. It's been on the county books for a long time. I want to take it back and take the property back and put it on my deed. And everybody approved, and then I was to come here. I don't know what else to say.
All right, your resolution is in our packet, and we'll consider that under the public works portion of the meeting. We appreciate you coming. Thank you very much. We did have another speaker that requested to speak this evening. However, the item does not appear on the agenda. It was on Bitcoin. And just for your information, that item did not appear on the agenda. That will conclude our speakers for this evening. Our next agenda item is to move into public hearing for rezonings. Our first rezoning to consider this evening is Petey and Phyllis Gardner. It's in the 12th Civil District, M1 Industrial District to the R3A High Density Residential District. Do we have anyone here to speak in favor of this request? Do we have anyone here to speak in opposition to the request? Seeing none, The next rezoning to consider is Hunter Lake. It's in the 11th Civil District, Planned Manufacturing District, to the B3 General Business District. Do we have anyone here to speak in favor of this request? Sir, if you'll come forward, give your name and address to the clerk, please.
Yes, good evening. Todd Wood, 1804 Galen Drive, Johnson City. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. We're requesting approval. If you have any questions, I'll be available for any questions. It's in conformance with the neighborhood. It fits in with everything else that's out there.
All right. Todd, thank you very much. Anyone else here to speak in favor of the request? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the request? Seeing no one here to speak in opposition to, we'll close the public hearing and go into regular session. Ms. Charles could not be here tonight. However, we do have Chris Pape with us from our zoning administrator's office. Chris, we appreciate you filling in a short notice, and thank you for coming this evening.
Happy to do it. Good evening.
Good evening.
Before you have two items. The first one is the Gardner rezoning on Sid Martin Road. This is basically a continuation of the first part. It's the second phase of the Sid Martin. The first part, I want to say, was 86 units. This one is proposed for 115, 116. Planning Commission recommended approval of this unanimously, and there's no opposition at the rezoning. The second item is the Hunters Lake Midge Cox rezoning on Boone Station Road from Planned Manufacturing District to B3. The request is to accommodate a warehouse building. As the property lies within Johnson's planning boundary, their staff did do a review, submitted a recommendation of approval, and the Johnson City Regional Planning Commission also recommended approval of the request. They also advised us that there was no opposition to the request at their planning commission. I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Have any questions for Mr. Pape? Thank you, Chris, for coming tonight. We appreciate you very much. We have a resolution, two resolutions to consider. Resolution 220102 is a resolution rezoning in the 12th Civil District presently owned by PDH and Phyllis Gardner. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler to approve the resolution, seconded by Commissioner Carriger. Any questions or discussion?
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you announce the vote. 13 yes, 2 absent, the resolution passes. Next resolution is number 220114, is a resolution rezoning the tax map in the 11th Civil District presently owned by Hunter Lake. We have a motion? Motion made by Commissioner Fitzgerald, second by Commissioner Malone. Questions or discussion? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you announce the vote. 13 yes, 2 absent, the resolution passes. Next item is a special recognition and proclamations. We do have a couple of different items here this evening. Our first one, Mayor Grandy, is this one yours? All right. Our top 10 4-H poster winners. We have a representative here from the zoning office this evening. Not the zoning office, but the Connie comes, yeah, from the Ag Extension office. I was going to put you to work again, Chris, you know. All right. Those winners are on page 35. If you can review them as well. And we're very proud of our 4-H poster winners. I know some of you may remember doing a 4-H poster yourself. I know I do remember mine. Also, the UT Extension report to the people is on page 39 for your review. Dana, if you want to come up and introduce our guest this evening, she's going to bring you some very interesting information on some poll pads and what they do. And this is one of the best ways I knew to bring it to the commission is a time we can get everybody in the room and take a look and just have some explanation as what these do. Thank you, Dana, for arranging this for us.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity to present this technology for Washington County to our election, or to our county commissioners. This is Bill Whitehead. He works for Microvote. Microvote is actually the voting system that we use here in Washington County, and we have since, well, I know since 2006, but late 90s. So they've been through 2 generations of voting machines with us. We do have a few challenges in Washington County with split precincts. And we just found out that the state lines that are proposed for our state representatives is going to give us a total of 13 split precincts. So in the August election, we're going to have a total of 148 ballots that our machine operators can choose from. So this is a great way. He's going to demonstrate how we can take human error out of the opportunities they have at our precincts. And I've got handouts for you also if he pulls it up and watch it do it. This is Bill Whitehead, if I didn't say his name.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you all for the opportunity to come speak to you about electronic poll books. Simply put, an electronic means for us to check in our voters on election day. And some of your precincts have already used that technology in past elections, but we're trying to maybe get it to where it's a county-wide situation. We have several counties in the state already using this technology for election day, but we want to add one more component of functionality to show you today in terms of how we can, as Dana said, preclude the human error in ballot selection. So we have what we call an encoder that we incorporate into the electronic poll book, and that'll actually code the vote card that the poll worker uses, so that when they go to the voting machine and they insert the vote card, it automatically pulls the proper ballot up for that particular voter. So I'll give you a brief demo of the unit. We can talk a little bit about the benefits real quickly. Mainly, it makes your elections more efficient, more streamlined. It expedites the process on the front end in the precinct for the voter. Where the current books, where they have to flip through, they find the voter's name, they make sure that they're the proper voter, then they have them hand fill out a application for ballot. That all goes away. Predominantly, a voter uses a photo ID. Actually, they have to use a photo ID, and predominantly they use a driver's license or a gun permit or a state ID. Those can be scanned with this device, and that automatically pulls that voter up. It does not require them to search or hunt for that voter when they check them in. These poll pads also, we download the entire voter registration file, but only assign them to particular precincts so that in the event a voter is in the wrong site and they show up, the poll worker can guide them to the proper precinct without having to call the election central. So once that voter is pulled up and then they check that voter in, it will print out the application for ballot with the information for that voter already filled in. So there's another element to eliminate human error, whereas they fill out the current application for ballot manually. So, and then lastly, the step that we're going to show you today, the encoding, once that's printed out, we actually encode the vote card so that we can go to the machine and pull up the proper ballot. If you have any questions at all in the demo, just raise your hand. I'd happily answer them as we go. So I'll give you a quick demo here. Again, this is the poll pad. It is an electronic version of a poll book. It is very simple for the poll worker to use. We can check a voter in about 35 to 45 seconds. There's 2 options for the poll worker. They have a scan option, which we use a driver's license, like I said, or a gun permit or a state ID card. If they happen to bring a photo ID that is a passport or military ID, we just do the manual search by last name first. So they will check in, they will put their driver's license in the tray behind the iPad. They'll hit scan barcode. It will lock in on that barcode, and then it immediately pulls up that particular voter's information for the poll worker to verify with the voter that that's in fact their address. Once they confirm that, they hit accept. If it's a primary, they'll select the primary ballot. If they don't want a primary ballot in the August election, they can select the general only ballot. So they'll select the ballot, they'll hit accept. The poll worker will initial in the box that they have qualified who that voter is. They'll hit accept. At that point, poll pad asks me to put the vote card in the encoder. And then I will create the ballot card and print the application for ballot. The vote card will go with the poll worker after the voter signs the application for ballot. They will go over to the first available voting booth, insert the vote card. Here's where currently they select manually in early voting the precinct and then the ballot, and in the election, in the precincts on election day the ballot. Okay, this automatically pulls up the precinct, the proper precinct and proper ballot. In this case, it's the 6th district. Okay, the voter will then vote the machine. This is a one-time ride only. If I try to insert this card in after I voted again, it will tell me that I can't use it. It has to go back in line. Okay. Any questions on that?
It's totally hands-free, so we're not touching the voter either.
Right, so they would put their card in the tray. The poll worker would scan the ballot card. Yes, sir.
Yeah, on the last election, there was a lot of comment about that, sneaking into the network and messing with the ballots. Is this thing been tested? Is it vulnerable to be hacked?
That's a great question. So, first of all, the only data, this is an extension of Washington County's voter registration program provided by Voter Central. And we don't even bring all the information for the voter over. All we bring over is name, address, date of birth, basically public information. It is tested through an independent test lab at the federal level, but this is standalone, static. It is not connected to the internet. It is not at all, does not at all communicate with the voting machine, which is also standalone and static, nor is it connected to anything except the power supply. So no, I mean, there's no way for, those folks that think they can sit out in a car or, and somehow interfere with it electronically.
And if we have 200 votes on the poll pad, we should have 200 votes on the machines. If we don't, we know there's an error. So it's another way for us to double check to make sure our numbers are right.
Yeah, so they do the AM and PM kind of checks for votes. The voting machine in between ballots will always give you a status screen, tell you how many people have cast ballots on each machine. They add that up. And we also have a check-in number on each poll pad, depending on how many you have in each facility. Yes, sir.
Seems like it's going to be more complicated for the election people. My grandmother worked elections for 50 years, and I mean, I don't start changing things. And so number one, I would be concerned about it being more complicated, more aggravating for people who work elections. And number two, where do you come up with this that you're going to save us $50,900 by doing this?
Well,
Where's those figures?
That was research we did with Dana's office, and I'll let her touch on it, but there are things that are eliminated, and go ahead. But then I won't touch on your first point.
Go ahead and touch on it first, if you don't care.
No, not at all. Can we pause?
Yes, we sure can.
That is a great point, and that is everybody's first concern, because it's no secret that the average poll worker is usually a retiree or someone, not right out of college, not tech. The people that developed this went around to many different jurisdictions, and they talked to these poll workers. These aren't computers. You don't have to be a network engineer to set it up. You literally, after the office gets them prepped and ready for election day, all they have to do is, the hardest thing is to put it on the stand and get it ready. Once they turn it on, they only have two options, literally. And so to your point, we had those same concerns, and we have almost a third of the state now using this form of technology in one way or another. And no joke, they fight over who gets to sit in the chair to use that. So
what's been the issue with using the books like they do now? What's the problem with the books? I mean, why are we going to this versus the book where you can actually write it in? I mean, that makes more sense to me, but I'm not a...
So to talk about more of the efficiency, that's a good question. clearly you can check a voter in much quicker on the front end. Voters like that, and even if they have to wait in line a little bit for a voting machine to become available, they know they're in the queue and they're in the process. We found that through exit polls, but mainly on the back end for the election administration, they have to reconcile their votes, their voters that have voted every election. And what they do after every election is they spend weeks, one at a time, scanning each voter that checked in on their current setup and with the paper rosters, because you have these barcodes and next to the paper rosters. So they sign and they know that there's a signature there that they've checked in. This creates a file after election day, and within an hour, your entire 80-some thousand, or however many, 60-some thousand that have voted, can be reconciled in the voter central program.
Which would take us 5 to 6 weeks in the office to reconcile after each election. We can do it in an hour and now. So that's a time savings for your county employees. The other thing is, you know how you would have lines instead of tons and tons of ballots.
Yeah, she's referring to the latest generation of our voting system with paper backup.
I still like the old machines where you went in and pushed the button on a big machine and it counted on the back with a Geiger counter. You have all these computers, that's my opinion.
We don't have those in.
What about this $50,000 you're gonna save? I'd ask that question. Tell me where that's coming from.
Well, as you see, I've got 2 sheets in there and I walked you through all of it. And a lot of it is the precinct books. We're gonna save $2,200 per election year. And we did actually look at our precinct books and calculated out exactly how much it was. Machine applications, we're gonna save $3,600 there also. Now, we do have to buy the rolls of paper. And so there will be a cost there, but it's a lot less than $3,600. Then the machine operators, we have 1 machine operator for every 2 machines now, okay? Because all you have to do is put the card in and then take it back. And that's the state recommendations too, is 1 machine operator for every 2 machines. So we're getting back in line with state code. Time savings, you got 5 full-time staff that took 3 weeks on a normal election, but in the November election, they were busy for 6 weeks doing exactly this. Scanning, covering up the next one, scanning, and then hitting a DRR. Scanning and then hitting a DRR. That automatically does it. So you don't have employees' time
You
tied
can
up
cut your
doing that.
budget $50,000, you think, next year when you save that amount of money. Is that what you're saying?
My goal is to turn money back into the county every year, so I would love to be able to do that. I would love to be able to do that. So,
There's a question.
yes.
Dave,
Commissioner?
yeah, could you comment on mail-in balloting, absentee ballot?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything going to change differently there?
Just the watermark.
Yeah, just the watermark on those, and we are gonna have to buy new ballots for the watermarks, but the state hasn't approved anything yet. And until the state approves something, I'm not buying anything.
Yeah, and that should be like within a week or 2. We should have a grip on what, it sounds like it's gonna be the same ballot card that you use, only it's gonna have the seal of the state capitol with 1 extra flag, so that, and it's, it's a watermark, so if someone attempts to copy it or reproduce it, it's clear that it's been done, so. But otherwise, it'll vote the same way for the voter, and the administrator and her staff will code it the same way going out.
And then the absentee ballot only counts those, so they won't go through this system at all. Yes, sir.
I guess 2 questions, and you may have spoke to this one earlier, but
If I understand correctly, one of the benefits to the poll pads is it takes out the human component of which ballot to use. I think you maybe touched that, but you might speak to that a little more. And then I'm curious, because obviously there is a cost savings, but there is an upfront capital expense as well. And I'm just curious how long the poll pads are expected to, what's their useful life?
So the first generation of poll pads that went into play in the country are going, this will be their 10th year. And they do have to have an occasional iOS update, not always, because we test, the vendor that produced it, they test their application that they put on here to the iOS version at the time. So we turn off iOS updates. Where like at home, we're always looking to update our phone or our iPads. That's not the case with these. So I would say, can't predict history, but we're at 10 years with the first generation. I'd say no problem 8 years. And then really at that point, you already have the licensing for them and all the software that goes with it. So if you in fact had to replace an iPad for some reason, you're only paying the hardware cost at that point, not the initial upfront cost. So, and backing up to your point on how we can mitigate or almost, in my opinion, remove them, human error, is the encoder. So right now, most of our counties do not use this encoder. There are some that are getting ready to start using it for the same reason that Washington, or that Dana wants to for Washington. Check-in a voter, conventionally they sign the application for ballot, order escorts them to the booth, vote card goes in, they select precinct and early voting and or ballot style, and on election day they select the ballot style. As we know, we had some misfires in November of 20, enough that it made news. So that's what really this is kind of what inspired us to be here, I guess, to try to create a solution for that. And we've had this technology in other states going already. We're working hard to try to get it in here for that same purpose. But now, holder checks them in, they sign the application for ballot, they insert the card, it writes the ballot to that vote card, and when they come over here, they don't have any selections to make, they just have to insert the vote card in and remove it, and the ballot comes up.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Did I hear you correctly say that you turn off the ISO update?
Yes.
So that suggests that it is connected somehow where it would automatically update?
No, we also turn off, we do have to use, for several minutes max, we do have to use secure Wi-Fi in the office to bring down the voter file. So we create the election database. Once early voting concludes, they generate a file for us that lets us know who's voted early and who's voted absentee. We create the election and then specifically assign their path to certain precincts or the appropriate precincts. We turn on the Wi-Fi just long enough to import that voter file and verify its contents. And then Wi-Fi is turned off when it goes out on election day. There's no connectivity whatsoever. You can't, and we can lock them out of the settings, so they can't go in there and tinker with it.
And it only has access when it's up in my office on the state server.
Yeah, secure Wi-Fi, yes.
Okay. Commissioner Harris?
I just want to say one more thing, and I'll be quiet on this issue. I think it's nice that they come in to show us this. And I want to speak on behalf of myself and the district I live in. I don't know if any of you all even know this or not, but in the 2nd District of Washington County, which is a rural area, the Election Commission closed all 3 of our voting precincts. Emerald, South Central, New Salem, they all shut down. We're sending everybody to Westview School. You're going to have people driving from Emerald community, which is the Unicoi County line, to Westview, 30 to 40 minutes. That was never brought before us. I never had a chance to speak out against it. Yet tonight they come in, I guess, wanting us to pay a bunch of money for an upfront cost on the new voting machine. So if this is that important, why wasn't it important enough for them to come let us know that? I've got people that say they're never going to go vote again. My grandfather is 89 years old. South Central voting precinct has been there as long as he can remember. And they're closing these places down. It's not like in Johnson City, which I have nothing against. You got precincts closed. It's probably several within 5 minutes drive of each other. You all know that. But in the county, it's not like that. And I just want to bring that to your attention because I voiced my opposition to the election officer, and she said they were going to save money.
But that's what we have. Do we have any more questions? Yes, sir.
Looking at the estimate, I noticed you're only getting like 50 vote cards. So that means you divide that by the number of, you'd only have a couple at each precinct?
I only plan on having 3 vote cards with each poll pad, and I have some vote cards in my possession at $9. So I just ordered what I needed, since they were $10 each.
But there'll be 3, you're thinking 3. So if you've checked in 3 voters and they're waiting to vote, you can't check in anymore until they get voted, or is that correct?
Okay, keep in mind, you have 3 for each poll pad. Well, early voting, you're gonna have at least 4 poll pads, so you have 12 cards there. If I need more, I'll give them more. But I think 3 is a good number to start with.
Okay.
Because since the cards are $10 each, I want my workers to keep them like gold too, so they don't disappear and walk out the door. Now, the voter will never touch them, it will just be my machine operator and the registrar touching them. But I still want to make sure that they value them.
I got it. So if you found that was a holdup, you could always order more later. I understand. Okay, very good.
Sure can.
Thank you.
He keeps those with him at all times, so I can get them quick.
Okay.
Are you going to educate Washington County citizens to don't come to the polls without your driver's license or a photo ID? Yes, ma'am. So, that's on my website also, whenever I do talks, and also anybody who wants to listen to me, we educate.
What's your path forward here? Where do you see? You see these coming into play in August, in November, May? All right.
May on an odd presidential year is also a low voter turnout, so it's a good time to get everybody up and running and get used to the system. Then in August, I have 128 different ballots, I believe it might be 148, it's on your form. But then they've already used it once, they've got confidence, everybody knows what they're doing. It should be like clockwork come August.
So the May election, you see every precinct having this?
Yes, sir.
You see only voting having this?
Yes, sir,
Okay.
I do.
We can repurpose the early voting pads for election day. They're not like voting machines in that regard. So once early voting has concluded, we can repurpose those for election day where we use them specifically for precinct.
One other question. As the electronics we have in this room, when they work, they're awesome and they speed things up. But as glitches happen, they can slow things down. So if you have a glitch, are you prepared for it?
Yes, sir, just like in the past. In the past, we have had glitches where power failure happened, and you have to go back and you have to leave votes manually, and then they call the office, and we vote them on the computer from the office, believe it or not, so that people don't have to wait for the power to come back on. So, yes, sir, we will keep all of our tried and true handy-dandy tools in our toolkit. We're not going to get rid of any of those. But we hope that it will go glitch-free, but you never know. So,
There'll be a paper roster, not like the conventional book that you're used to today, but there'll be a paper roster too. State requires 2 signatures per check-in. So they have a signature book, not like the conventional check-in book, and then this signature. So the pad for some reason, and those pads, when they're prepped for election day, they go through like a verification process. So, and they charge them, they make sure they're all charged up. So they are functional when they go out the door. Now, that doesn't mean to say that if somebody doesn't drop in or something. Yeah. But with the number of pads she's looking to get, you're gonna have at least 2 per site. So you should, and again, as efficiently as you can check a voter in, we can get another backup pad out there.
and the beautiful thing about this is if the power goes down, this is battery operated. So my poll pad actually works, but my computer doesn't. So we can still check them in, verify them, make sure they are who they say they are. And then we'll vote manually. So
You can definitely continue to check in on the poll pads. You won't be able to print these if the power goes down, but you'll have the old school application pads there just in case. And then, of course, the voting machines are also on a battery backup. So even if it's dark in the site, both devices are backlit and can be used if people are willing.
Any other questions for Dana? Or?
I would just like to say thank you so much for your time and listening to us. I greatly appreciate it. If you do have any questions, please feel free to call me. My door is always open.
Yes,
All right.
Thank
You. I think if we're going to take this up and it's the request of the Election Commission to have this working by May, I think we probably need to get this into a committee to be considered pretty quickly this month, or this upcoming month. Commissioner Jones? Are you the vice chairman of CIA this month?
That's me.
Oh, of CIA? Okay, would you please place that on your agenda this month? Dana, if you'll be at the CIA meeting this upcoming month to bring your proposal for them to consider. Thank you. All right. Our next item is to receive and consider the minutes for the December 13 meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Commissioner Tester?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I want to make a motion to approve them with one correction. Well, actually, a little more complicated than one correction, but Resolution 21-1204 was the one with the private act for the county attorney. And if y'all will recall, we did the motion was to approve it with changes. We went through some changes. Those were emailed out that day. The minutes just say with revisions. So I would like to make a motion to approve these, but those specific revisions actually get recorded in the minutes.
All right. Any further additions or corrections to the minutes? Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes and the amendment.
Yes, my motion is to approve the minutes with the correction to the section about Resolution 21-1204.
Oh, okay. Right. We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Huffine. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. The motion passes and the minutes are accepted with the amendment. Next item is Resolution 220104, is a resolution appointing a member to the Board of Directors of the Washington County Johnson City Animal Control Center. That's on page 46. Do we have a motion? Motion made by Commissioner Carriger. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Jones to approve the resolution. Question? Commissioner Tester?
Nothing against my colleagues sitting here, but did this go through the typical process?
It's untypical, Commissioner Tester. One of the things that we had, or atypical, how's that? It was Commissioner Huffine had requested to serve there many times. We had missed that meeting a time or two. I spoke with the chairman of the committee, Commissioner Jones. We felt like that Commissioner Huffine was well vetted to serve on that committee. And I'm starting to be in great need of committee members. Matter of fact, just as soon as this is approved, I'm going to talk to you about several committees we have vacancies on and need applicants for. So that's my excuse, and I ask for your forgiveness because it did miss the agenda a couple of times. Commissioner Jones?
I do want to take a little responsibility there too. There was an email to put that on the agenda in Hugh this month. It came to me a couple of days before Christmas, so it didn't quite make it in the haze of the holidays. So.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Any further discussion or questions? Questions been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 2 absent, and the resolution passes. Thank you, Commissioner Huffine, for being willing to serve. We've had a vacancy on that committee for some time. Our next item is the County Mayor's Report. County Mayor Grandy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last month, we reported that the audit had been complete, and just gave a note that that had taken place. The audit committee has met. It met last week. So the annual comprehensive financial report has been accepted by the audit committee. It's been reviewed, and from the comptroller's office, both Robert and Paula were here to answer questions for that committee. The Commissioner Malone was the chair of that committee, and you may want to just weigh in on how that meeting went or anything you'd like to say.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, the audit committee did meet just last Friday, so there's no minutes in your current packet agenda, but they will be in the meeting or in your agenda packet for next month, for February. But we had a good audit meeting. I'd like to thank those that were in attendance, specifically those that serve on the audit committee. I think we have a stellar group of individuals from our community that serve. And I'll just thank them publicly. Paige Carter, who's the compliance officer for Ballot Health, Jackie Stedman, who is the CFO for Milligan College, Mark Kinzer, who is a retired executive from General Shellbrick, and then I think everybody knows Tom Krieger. So we have a good group of individuals, ask good questions, but we did review and accept the county's audit or financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2021. And just kudos, Mayor, to yourself, Director Meredith, and the staff, because I think this is one of the cleanest audits we've ever had. You know, if you think about an audit, auditors always want to find something. And so, but this year we've had fewer findings than we've had in the past, and we keep making progress. You know, if you think about it, with an audit, our goal should be 0 findings, I suppose, but with a county the size of Washington County, that is challenging. There are some counties in the state of Tennessee that get 0 findings on their audit, but it is, I think many of those are smaller counties, but it is a goal to hit 0. We've got fewer findings this year than I think certainly in recent years or since I've been on the commission. And there were actually none in the associated with the general fund for the county. The findings that were found were in other areas. So just congratulations to your staff, Mayor. And I think this was the 7th year, maybe. It was the 6th year that we've received, the county received the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting. So that is something I think the county and certainly our citizens in this commission should be proud of. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Malone, thank you. You may recall that for 50 years, the audit was conducted by a local audit firm. And about 5 years ago, it was taken over by the state comptroller's office. And so we are just among the 91 of 95 counties that are audited by the comptroller. It's not a drop by and audit sort of arrangements. They literally live with us starting probably in 2 or 3 weeks, off and on through the entire year. And as you know, county government is very decentralized. Each individual office holder is responsible for their own individual accounting, and the results from those individual operations from the elected officials, I don't see until this shows up. So we only know what's within our own department and not what's across the county. But as Commissioner Malone pointed out, there were several findings, and I thought we would just share that with you and the public tonight to be sure that everybody gets just a little dose of it. It will be very brief, but Mitch, if you'd like to sit there a little bit.
I think that's this. That mother's coming this soon. You all should have gotten a copy, an electronic copy of the audit report when the comptroller released it. And as Commissioner Malone said, the audit committee accepted the report. I don't know if you can ever send it back, so I think that goes without saying. The findings, were noted back on page beginning on page 287, and I'll just, the prior year, they put a schedule in here that addresses the prior year findings, and there were actually 2 in the mayor's office, 1 in the highway department, 3 in the schools, and 1 in the sheriff's office. And all those findings were not repeated this year except for 1 in the school system. And Director Boyd and Director Hale are working on resolving that. There were 3 findings in the schools. And like I said, 1 of them was repeated, and they're working on the corrective action plan for that. As all the findings in here have corrective action plans. There were a couple. There was a finding in the court clerk's office, which had to do with the reviewing of a transaction log. They kind of let that drop, and so they picked that back up to make sure that they're reviewing their transactions. Same thing in the office of the county clerk. But that was the extent of it. Very, very minimal. I think in terms of audit findings, we don't want any, and we're trying to get to that point next year. So on the findings piece, that's where we go. I will point out one thing in the audit report, and I know I usually get this question from Commissioner Carter, but our net pension liability, that's always a concern. And our net pension liability actually did, we have a what I would call a positive net liability. It's actually a negative number. We are essentially overfunded. And so that shrunk a little bit this year. It went from 1.5 million to 1.1 million. But we're still, our pension liability is 117 million. Our assets held by TCRS are 118 million and some change. So we're in pretty good shape there. So that's it.
Commissioner Harris?
Just say this, Mayor and Commissioner Meredith, I appreciate this report, but, tell the whole commission, 12 days ago, I'd requested to the mayor and Mr. Meredith some information. One thing that I was told was that we were paying late fees on bills. Bills were coming into the mayor's office and being paid late. Another thing that I was told was that Bright Ridge has sent a cutoff notice to the county highway department because we haven't paid our electric bill. And I sent all this to him, and there's a line item, I don't know if you all are aware of it, line item 530 in our county is set aside now to pay late fees. And thankfully today, about 2 o'clock, after 12 days, you did respond. And it looked like we'd spent up around $5,000 this year and $4,000 some odd dollars last year on paying late fees. The audit may sound great, but that don't sound great to me. That's taxpayers' dollars. And to me, that's a waste of taxpayers' dollars when we have millions of dollars in the bank and we can't even pay our bills on time. And you have county officials getting notices in the mail that their power is going to be cut off. How embarrassing can that be? That's an embarrassment to all of us and a disgrace. And I would call you, Mr. Mayor, or Mr. Meredith, one, you should reimburse the county out of your pocket for that money. You run on being a businessman and running the county like a business. Well, if I've owned businesses and I've paid bills. If somebody was running my business and was paying my bills late, I would fire them. So I think you should reimburse the county of this $5,000 plus the $4,000 last year. I think we deserve to write a letter to these officials that are getting these notices that their power is going to be cut off and apologize. It's embarrassment.
As the report indicated to you this afternoon, no bills were paid late.
Well, where's the $5,000 go then?
Well, that's.
Well, why didn't I receive what I asked for on line item 530, a breakdown? Why did you tell me there was $5,000 paid late? So you're saying no bill's ever been paid late? Are you going to say on the record tonight no bill's been paid late?
Fuel man, there has not been, your question.
No, I'm asking you, you're saying no bill's been paid late.
You were asking about the
I'm
bill
asking you
man.
to go on the record. You're saying I was wrong. Has any bill been paid late?
I can't answer that,
Why can't you answer it?
because I haven't looked at every bill that's been paid.
Well, what's line item 530 for?
530 is an account that was set up to track any late payment charges, so that we could you can't manage something that you don't monitor.
Why are we paying bills late?
Well, we're not paying them late, that's what I
Well, where
said.
did the $5,000 go?
Well,
Why did we get a cutoff notice from Bright Ridge? So Bright Ridge sent us a cutoff notice and didn't charge us a late fee, but they will a citizen out here on the street. So that didn't happen. I think it's ridiculous. And I think the whole commission needs to look into this, because if we're running our county government like this, we've got problems. I'm not running again. It don't matter to me. I'm not out here campaigning for myself. I'm not running for any office. But I'll just say this, it's ridiculous. I worked in county government for almost 30 years. Paul Monk, who was the mayor of Unicoi County, would have pitched the fit and been jumping up and down if a letter had been sent that power was getting cut off at his highway department. I think that's a disgrace. I don't know who's running your office, but it's bad.
All right.
Would you like an answer?
Well, you sent me an answer today, and now he's coming in here and contradicting it.
No,
It's all right. I'd like to see what I asked for. I would like to see the 530 line item broke down, like I asked for. I never got it.
It's in there.
You never give it to me. No, I didn't get it.
Oh, okay.
That's been 12 days ago.
I think,
You're gonna give it to me now at the meeting.
Well, no, I mean,
You won't be able to go over it
it's
now.
not gonna
Yeah.
change
Okay.
anything, but there you go, Commissioner Harris.
Yeah. I would just say, get your stuff together, pay your bills.
bills are being paid.
all right, I think we've covered this one pretty good. Commissioner Tester?
I wanted to ask a question on a totally different topic. The Jonesboro School, is that long-term obligation expected to show up on the audit next year?
More than likely, no. It wouldn't hit until we actually, occupied the building and the lease started.
Gotcha, okay. Thank you.
All right. Any further questions? Right, we'll just move right on to the county attorney's report.
Am I live? Can you hear it?
Got to make sure your mic is on.
Thank you. Ooh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may, I'd like to share with you a couple of things. One is a statute that you've looked at a number of times in the past few years, and that's one that addresses what the commission does in the event of a vacancy. We've had resignations in our county a couple of times. We've had sessions court positions open, the sheriff's office, and a number of commission vacancies. Of course, it's with a sad heart that we look at the vacancy in the 15th district, but it is on the agenda this evening. When you get to the very end, you will be asked to accept the vacancy in Commission District 15. And that's important because by accepting it tonight, you have actual notice, and you're relieving your county clerk of giving you notice by mail that there has been a vacancy occur. It will also start the statutory period of 120 days. I think you probably remember from past appointments, but just to remind you that the legislative body is required by statute to fill a vacancy within 120 days of the notice of the vacancy, unless during that period there's a general election scheduled in the county and that there's a sufficient time for someone to get on the ballot. I think you had that with respect to District 13 when Commissioner Huffine came on board, but not with respect to Commission District 7 when you appointed Commissioner Kate. So y'all are well versed in this statute, but it is from the acceptance of a vacancy, which will be happening tonight. That 120-day period runs and expires May 24th. Right, that's 120 days from today's date. I thought it would be helpful for you to think about a few things that do occur in the time period between now and May 24th. One is that February 17th, in the middle of the day, is the deadline for potential candidates to turn in petitions to be on the ballot. Of course, all commission positions are subject to a vote in the general county election this year. So there will be a primary on May 3rd and a county general election on August 4th. So those are important dates for you to think about, just that that's happening, and there may or may not be people who are going to run, and the commission may appoint this position in the February, March, April, or May commission meeting. There's a statutory notice period. The chairman always provides that notice, and we publish it. I believe it's 7 days that will occur before the commission is going to appoint. So that's out there, and I just wanted to draw your attention to why there is the acceptance of the vacancy on the agenda this evening. We do have executive session, but there's lighter news and happier news that we have Tiffany Matthews has joined the county attorney's office. So I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that and to welcome her officially. We didn't have a full slate of committee meetings this month, so some of you may not have had the opportunity to meet her. We did have 8 days of overlap with the paralegal before she retired, and I'm really happy to tell you that the packet that you have this evening is Tiffany's work product. So she had supervision from Teresa Stutes before she left, but I think you can have confidence in her ability to move forward, and she's accepted with a lot of grace computer glitches and mind-bending experiences, and she's, I think, very excited to be here. I have a lot of confidence in her. So if you haven't introduced yourself, that's who is sitting up here tonight for the county, and I just hope that you will welcome her. And she's been out of the workforce for a few years, homeschooling a very successful child who's graduating now and going into the United States Navy as a quartermaster. Am I right? So I think, we're really excited to have her. And if you have any feedback, we all want to hear it because we're trying to build a strong foundation for her. She's very interested in this career. So thank you for indulging me and the public in hearing that, we're a resource to the county. I know the mayor considers us one, and you consider us one, as do the officials. So that's it for that. And so if we could take you to executive session, it will be on all pending and anticipated litigation. Shouldn't take too terribly long, and thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'll move into executive session. Lieutenant Foster, if you'll open the door, and I'll try to catch the back one.
Hey, it's work at the party, but, hey. Okay, what's now? Can I order pizza? He said, it's too late to eat pizza. So we're here too late to eat pizza. I know, he said, you can't eat like that. I said, did it have more battery life in it? I know. You're ready? Vacancy. I'm freezing to
Acceptance of vacancy.
You've never been out there?
I think you're down one. Yep, he's alone. You need light. Oh, there he is.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started back. Sorry for the delay. We did have some discussions there in the executive session. We do have an item to consider coming out of executive session. Ms. Wilkinson, will you
I'm happy to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the matter that is known as the Murray matter, which is filed here in the 1st Judicial District, the county would be looking for a motion that would allow an intervention for the limited purpose of arguing county issues where the county is now a dismissed party.
do we have a motion?
I would make that motion defer to our county attorney for proper verbiage.
All right. Motion made by Commissioner Huffine. Commissioner Jones, seconded the motion. Do you have any questions or discussion? Commissioner Wheeler?
Mr. Chairman, do we need to suspend the rules to add this to the agenda?
Since the executive session was on the agenda, I don't think we'd have any opportunity to have prior notice of it. But we can suspend the rule if it's in good order. Commissioner Tester, would that make you feel any different?
I will be fine with that, sir.
All right. All right. Let's go ahead and, before we consider this, we do have a motion and second. Let's go ahead and take a motion. Can we go ahead and take a motion before we vote, Commissioner Wheeler?
Move to suspend the rules.
Motion to suspend. Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Carrigan to suspend the rules. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the rules are suspended. Go back to our motion and second that we had to consider the Murray case. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and vote on the screen. Madam Clerk, if you'll vote us on the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Yes, we're back on the original motion. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. Yes, 2 absent, and the motion passes. Anything else for the county attorney's report, Ms. Wilkins?
No, sir, but I will just confirm that this commission, what you have done is you've authorized an appearance by counsel to intervene in the Murray matter for the limited purpose of arguing county-related issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the county trustee's report. Our trustee Story is with us. Rick, I understand you had an interesting report to give to the CIA committee. We appreciate you coming tonight. And
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I've been asked to just give you a brief overview of tax relief, which we did talk about that at one of the committee meetings last week, but just kind of a general overview. Currently, tax relief is offered to Washington County to 3 different categories: for elderly, disabled, or disabled veteran. And they have to, the elderly is 65 years old before the end of the year of 2021. The same thing for the disabled, and the same thing for the veteran. They have to be rated permanently or totally disabled before the same period of the year. The state of Tennessee approved in their budget this year. They're relying on $41,265,000, I think, for tax relief for the state. Washington County, the commission here, you all for the 21-22 year appropriated $400,000. For the elderly and the disabled, the qualifications are the same. You have to be a homeowner. It has to be their primary residence, and they count the source of the income of the folks living in there. If it's the applicant and their spouse, we count both income. If it's just the applicant or just a widow, we just count the single income. And the same thing on the disabled. Now the disabled veteran just have to be a homeowner, and they're not required. They do not have an income for the state, so that they're not bound by income. On the tax relief, the benefit that the individuals get from the money appropriated here, the elderly and the disabled receive up to $141 from the state, and Washington County jurisdiction will match up to what the state pays, so they can get $282. While on the veteran side, the qualified veteran gets $845 from the state, and the county will match up to that amount. So there's a difference there. You see there on the veteran side. I would tell you that Washington County will probably rank in one of the top echelons in the state of people that's supporting the veterans. And there was an ad hoc from the trustee in Shelby County that polled about 77% of the people, gave some feedback on what they did for tax relief. And Washington County was top of supporting the veterans and everything. And we started off in November, 2,500 applicants on tax relief. That goes up and down with deceased, new people coming on, people that moved out or their status changed and they come off of there. So, you know, it's hard. It's a moving target as of right now, but we paid out $146,000 of that $400,000, so there's $254,000 remaining. Most of them come in on your tax bills. A lot of those come in when the escrow is paid. Those they come in the end of December. Then we're sending those off right now to the state, and it usually takes a couple of months for them to process everything and get it back. But they can receive a check from the state as well as the county. So, and we advise them of that and try to keep them up to date. If they call, if they get one check and haven't got the other, we ask them to give us a call. We try to run the other one down. But you know, that's quick and brief. But if you have any questions about tax relief, but appreciate your contribution to that tax relief. So.
Rick, thank you so much. I know it's some interesting numbers. Thank you so much. Our next report is the Director of the Health Department, Director Hodgen.
Good evening. I wanted to take just a few minutes this evening and give you a local COVID update and then follow that up with some federal programs that have hit the street here or about to hit the street that you might find interesting. So for us locally, what I'm looking at from the last time that I stood up here before you in December to this week, we've seen about a threefold increase in number of daily COVID cases. If you look at that 7-day rolling average, we went up from low 60s in December to over 200 a day per 100,000 people here in Washington County as of last week. And that's accompanied by a positivity that the folks that we are testing, their positivity rates have jumped from 18% last month up to 39% this month. So the Omicron variant is what we're all anticipating, after the holidays. Looks like it is making that kind of swift pass. It is very, very contagious apparently, and we're seeing that here, and that's where these numbers are. If you look at that epi spike, it's pretty severe. Anecdotally, though, the good news is that other parts of the world that has come down pretty quickly as well on the backside. We'll be looking for that to happen here, although I can't tell you when. We continue to offer COVID vaccine and take-home testing kits at the health department every day, well, Monday through Friday, from 8:30 in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, as well as full-service PCR type testing Tuesdays and Thursday mornings from 8:30 to 9:30. So our response is roughly the same as it's been lately, and we're just staying focused on this thing and seeing it through. On the federal side, you might have seen CDC guidance has changed here recently in the way of isolation, quarantine rules, that kind of thing. It's a bit simpler, 5 days and 5 days, just generally speaking. So if you're quarantining or isolating, it's 5 days, and then if you're coming out the back of it and you meet certain criteria, then you're out. You're not spending 2 weeks in quarantine or isolation or anything like that anymore. On the other side, the federal home testing kits that you've probably seen in the news, that's a federal program that you can go online and order. Those folks that I know that have done it said it's pretty simple. They'll mail that stuff to you. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up was this N95 mask issue that you might have seen in the news as well. Federal program is going to offer N95 masks to folks, and that's via the federal retail pharmacy program and community health centers. And around here, places that may end up on there, all of our pharmacies in the area, that kind of thing, CVS, Walmart, Walgreens, that kind of stuff, we're likely to have these things, as well as these community health centers. There were 3 in Washington County that I'm aware of, 2 of them in Johnson City and 1 in Limestone. And that's about the gist of where we are here this month. Happy to take your questions.
Commissioner.
What percent of our population in Washington County has had the vaccines and/or COVID? In other words, I'm looking for natural immunity. It's probably not asking the correct question correctly.
There's no way for me to tell you how many folks have actually had COVID. I wouldn't begin to be able to tell you that, but I can tell you for vaccination purposes, I've got 59% of the county is fully vaccinated.
And that's a pretty good percentage, isn't it?
It is, for the state especially, the state average is 52%. The national average is 64%. So in the state, we're doing real well. Across the county, we're just shy of average.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Rapid test.
It depends on what we get. I do have rapid tests right now. As a matter of fact, I think that's all I have right now are those rapid tests. But we're grabbing those where we can get them. The regional office is helping us in the whole region trying to acquire these things. And over the last few days, I've had both in those testing kits. But I believe just today, as a matter of fact, we have run out of the kit PCR tests.
Seems like a lot of particularly small employers are having a lot of trouble with having so many people out and finding those tests to get them, so we can send them your way.
Yes,
we hear about that.
Yes.
What's your process of handing these out? I want a home test. What do I need to call first? Do I just show up?
Anytime between 8:30 and 4 o'clock. If you just roll up to
come in the building?
No, you don't have to even come in. Just roll up to the front door. There's a big A-frame sign right there. It's got a phone number on it. You just call that. We'll come to you, and that way we'll discuss your needs and then get you what you need. I'm sorry?
Is there cost involved if we pick something up?
All right, Chris, we appreciate all you do. I know you've been very responsive to the needs of government as well, and keeping our employees working every day. And thank you for all you're doing for us and our citizens, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tell your staff, I know we're out, but we really appreciate you all. Thank you.
And I'm blessed to have them.
Absolutely, we all are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our Director of Schools report, Director Boyd.
Good evening. Just on the front end, did not submit a written report this month. We will resume that monthly written report next month. Just some quick updates. We do have a workshop tomorrow with the board. They'll just be discussing some items in preparation for the February 3rd board meeting. Also, there's a special called meeting tomorrow to finalize the scope of work for the long-range facility plan. So they'll do that at the beginning at 4 o'clock as a special call so they can take action to finalize that work. And then they'll move into a work session or a workshop at 5. This Saturday, we have a strategic planning session really focused on the upcoming budget season and reviewing the strategic plan. That's really the focus of Saturday's conversation. We call it a retreat. It's at the district office, so it's not too far, but it'll be focused on those strategic items. And then, of course, February 3rd is the next board meeting. Just a quick update, too, on some projects. Mentioned the long-range facility plan. If it's able to be finalized tomorrow, they'll begin immediately on the work, which will include an evaluation of all of our facilities. The discussion tomorrow will be to what extent, and it's based, it'll be more costly if we pull in different kinds of engineers to assess different systems, or if we rely on existing data. But I think they're going to do a comprehensive review of all of our facilities, a demographic study of the growth patterns for the future, and then get a good handle on where all of our facilities are and where they need to be in the future. And then with the demographic study, even discussing about what the growth may look like and what the future looks like in terms of facilities and zoning as well. So look forward to that work getting started. The other work, HVAC work that we've engaged in, it's moving. Right now, it is progressing. The LED light installation is occurring in our schools, and they're hitting it pretty quickly. So I hope in the next 4 weeks they'll be completely done with all of the LED upgrades in all of our facilities. At the pace they're going, that may be a real possibility. And then the other project, the football field turf, everything's being in preparation. The timeline now is to begin actual work in April. So they'll begin work with the understanding, or at least the goal, to finish by July. And I just want to wish everyone a happy 2022. Hopefully your year's off to a good start. Upcoming Hugh has requested that we'll give updates, more detailed updates on our projects. Certainly we'll do that one at the next Hugh. Any questions for me?
Commissioner Malone?
Just one item, I guess. The rezoning request that was removed from the agenda, I just wanted to ask because it seems like a lot of the feedback we were getting were from school board members or folks concerned about the school. Is that something that's going to be on one of the upcoming school board agendas?
The board has not taken a position. Individual board members, as elected officials of course, have shared their thoughts. Tomorrow's meeting, there's no scheduled item for action. They will be discussed so they can be more informed as a whole group.
I think it would be helpful for this body if we fully understood the school board's position.
Sure.
So, thank you.
And I think I will have a better understanding of the direction I need to go as far as sharing the voice of the board tomorrow afternoon or evening. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
I'm going to go with what Commissioner Malone just said. One thing too, I think, since it's talk being in close proximity to the school, an idea I have, because I'm all for, I think there's no doubt we need this facility somewhere in Washington County. I think it's a very needed facility. But I've had a lot of people contact me against it, against going down there. I would say out of the people that's called me, because that's probably, I guess, mine and Danny's district right there together, but I've had probably, I would say 90% are against it.
I would say mine's been over 90%.
And they're
against the location, not against the
facility,
but
but
against
the location, but one thing, this might not just go with you all, maybe all of us, I think it would be nice if we could go ourselves, because I've got a real good friend who's on that agriculture committee, Willie Rundle. He's one of the best I've known my whole life. He's a farmer and he wants to help. And he says he's toured one of those, and there's no odor and there's no noise, and it would really clear my mind if all of us could go look at one of those, or one to go look at one and see what the odor is and what the noise is, and because I mean, there's no doubt we need it. I don't know, I mean, if the next location comes up, we're probably gonna hear similar problems. I think the school was the biggest thing. I mean, I had 2 people at my house this morning before I took a shower against it. And, but I would like to, I want to vote for it. I wanted to vote for it tonight. I don't know what I would have done. You know, I wish we could maybe line up something along those lines.
Commissioner Carter?
Well, I'm just gonna make a general comment, and this comes from experience. But I want everybody to think this through, that if we zone it M2, and somewhere things change, and the owners of this property sell it, it stays M2 until somebody an owner requests a change. And we could get something under M2 that's a lot of pollution, a lot of noise, a lot of smells. So as we're thinking this through, we gotta think through the fact that when it becomes M2, it stays that way until an owner asks it be changed and a county commission changes. So it's kind of the law of unintended consequences. And that happened to me on the city commission. We approved and the ownership changed and they weren't as nice of people as we had worked with originally, and it became a bad problem.
Who would, Chairman, who could we ask about that? Is that something, if we've done it, could we do it as a group that wanted to go, or one-on-one, or how could we do something like that to tour one of these facilities?
I'm sure we could. I just don't know who to inquire with. One of the problems with these processing plants today is there's so few of them. And such a unique one that we'd be talking about would be, I don't know where the closest one would be. And I mean, that may be a good question for
I think it would be good to show the public that we're really checking this thing out thoroughly, you know, that we want to do the right thing. I agree with Commissioner Carrier. I thought of those same things. I mean, it could be worse than you know, that people were complaining about. It could be, yeah.
And we would have no say.
I thought about that same thing. You're exactly right.
You know where the nearest one is? You know where the nearest facility is? I can't hear you.
Do you know where the nearest one similar to that facility would be, Keith?
It'd have to be an out-of-state right now, wouldn't it?
In the materials that are provided, like Charleston, West Virginia is the one that they're basing the design on.
Or maybe somebody from the RC&D could answer that question and find out where that would be, and I'll be glad to inquire on that. Commissioner Huffine, did you have a question?
As you all are formulating your opinion, I guess the question that I would ask, I don't know what the criteria you currently use for site selection of a school, but let's reverse roles. If you were going to put a school in that area and there was already this facility there, would that impact that decision, negative or positively? That would be the information I'd like to have back from the school board.
Yes, sir. Certainly, we want the school board to have that voice as far as, from my view and experience in site selection, I would say it certainly would be a part of the conversation. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Davenport.
Significant investment there. We don't want to compromise that.
Yes, sir. And I agree, the concerns that have been shared, of course. I think additional information would benefit everyone.
Yeah, and I think we're getting a little bit off subject here. I think as far as this matter goes, would you put a school there? Well, do you know what it smells like? How much noise? No, you don't know those things, right? And that's where we're at. We need more information before anyone can answer any questions. And I'll sign I may find where a facility is and I'll send you a text. I'm going.
Like I said, the RC&D could probably provide some of those locations for us, and we'll check in on that. Commissioner Wheeler?
Mr. Chairman, I absolutely agree. We need more information. It may not be practical for the whole commission to go, but we have not used a lot of our travel money this year because of meetings being closed down. I think we only have a month to get this right, that we might send like our CIA chairman, our HUE chairman, and the commission chairman to Charleston, if that's where the closest one is, to take a look at it and authorize that to be done, through our travel budget. I'll make that a motion if you'll accept a motion on that.
Have a motion, Commissioner Wheeler, to send the CIA chairman. Who else?
Yeah.
The Hugh Committee Chairman, is that what you said? Commissioner Wheeler, Hugh?
Mr. Chairman, I'll modify my motion to suspend the rules and do this.
Right?
It's been suggested that we need to suspend the rules.
Suspend the rules, and the rule is suspended, is it not?
Well, I would have thought we were doing it for that one item.
No, I think once you suspend the rules, they're suspended, though.
For the whole meeting. I second that.
All right, we'll go ahead and suspend the rules again. All right, let's go ahead and take a vote on suspending the rules. Consider this item. We have your motion was to suspend the rule, Commissioner Wheeler?
Yes, sir.
We have a second to suspend the rule. Commissioner Huffine, second. All in favor of suspending the rule to consider this one particular item, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The rules are suspended. Now, Commissioner Wheeler, if you'll make your motion again, please.
We authorize our CIA chair, our Hugh chair, and the chairman of the commission to travel to the closest, in their discretion, the most reasonable and closest facility similar to what we're talking about here, and that they do that on the commission's dime out of our funds for travel.
All right.
Second.
The motion, Commissioner Wheeler, second by Commissioner Light. Is there any discussion or questions? Questions have been called. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. I'll work with Sherry to work on our travel arrangements and talk with RC&D Council to determine which is our most closest and most similar facility nearest that we'll be visiting. Director Boyd, if you'd like to attend this meeting with us, I know you can make your very own travel arrangements, but I'll offer you to attend with us if you'd like to go.
Thanks, sir, and I'll share that with the board.
Yes, sir.
If I may, one last item, in reference of the Board of Education, the governor has signed a proclamation for this week to be designated School Board Appreciation Week, January 23rd through the 29th. And just wanted to bring that to light. You know, board members, just like this body, you know, school board, they represent over 8,200 students and the families that of those students and all of the employees. You know, their job is to provide governance, advocacy, and also to ensure accountability and that level of expectation that matches the community's expectations. So, you know, they're stewards of our public dollars that come to the school system. And so, you know, this week is designated to recognize all of our public school board members across Tennessee. So our 9 board members, certainly, it's been a joy to work with them and to continue to work with them as a board. And I'll share this information that was brought to light. I think it's always great. What I heard is we certainly focused on what we agree on. We agree that it's a need in Washington County and the region, that there are some concerns and that we need more education and information. So that's a great place to be.
Absolutely. We appreciate you and we appreciate our school board and we appreciate our relationship with them, and being able to talk with one another and work out problems. And that's been a good relationship. And we appreciate you coming here and representing them. Thank you so much.
Want to have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move right along. The Commercial, Industrial, and Agricultural Committee, Commissioner Carragher.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I was having a sidebar over here.
Oh, it's this, the CIA committee report. I see you have the minutes in your packet. Was there anything else that you'd
No,
like to
sir,
add?
that's it. I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody might have.
All right.
Appreciate the indulgence.
Yes, sir. Any questions for Commissioner Carriger? Seeing none, we'll move right on to the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee. Commissioner Jones?
Thank you, Chairman. You can see our minutes on page 85, and I'll start by asking that you consider resolution number 220105, resolution amending fiscal year budget 21-22 regarding Washington County Schools nutrition budget. You can find that on page 87. It comes with a recommendation by Hugh, and I'll bring it to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Malone. Commissioner Tester?
Mr. Chairman, my employer provided professional design services for the school board on this work, so I'm going to abstain from the vote on this resolution and recuse myself from the discussion.
Thank you, Commissioner Tester. All right. Any questions or discussion? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. We have 12 yes, 1 abstained, and 2 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Jones?
Next resolution for your consideration is number 220106, resolution amending fiscal year budget 21-22 regarding Washington County Schools General Purpose School Fund. It's on page 90. Comes with a recommendation by Hugh, and I'll bring it to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones. Have a second? Second by Commissioner Lott to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions?
Call the question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 12 yes, 1 abstained, and 2 absent. Commissioner Jones?
And the last resolution for your consideration is number 220107, resolution amending fiscal year budget 21-22 regarding the Gray Library plumbing issues. It's on page 97, comes with a recommendation from Hugh, and I bring it to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made to approve the resolution by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Lott. Question or discussion? Commissioner Tester?
Mr. Chairman, I noticed this money was coming from the general fund, but it is a capital type expenditure. Was there any discussion or thought on whether it came from capital projects or general fund? I guess that's a budget committee question.
Mr. Meredith, can you answer that for us?
Yeah, we wanted to keep the expenditure within the library department, but we didn't want it to become part of the maintenance of effort because it's a capital, non-recurring item. That's what it is.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Call the question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 13 yes, 2 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Jones?
That's all I have tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Public Works Committee, Commissioner Davenport?
We did not have a meeting this month. This item was actually carried over, I think, for the November. It needed to go through the Planning Commission, which it has now. So resolution number 220103 is resolution to close an undeveloped public right-of-way connecting Paintown Road to the dead-end road of Crawford Road. that comes to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Davenport, seconded by Commissioner Harris to approve the resolution. Questions or discussion? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 13 yes, 2 absent, and the resolution passes. Anything else, Commissioner Davenport?
That's all I have unless someone has a question.
Allocation of budgeted salary lines. This comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for its approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler. Second by Commissioner Fitzgerald to approve the resolution. Questions or discussion? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 13 yes, 2 absent, the resolution passes. Anything else, Commissioner Wheeler?
That concludes our report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next item is Resolution 22-0112, is a resolution approving the election of notaries, public, for appointment or reappointment for Washington County, Tennessee. Do I have a motion? Motion made by Commissioner Light to approve the resolution. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Edens. Questions or discussion?
Call question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 2 absent, and the resolution passes. We do have one item under new business tonight that is a tough motion to make for all of us. But recognizing the vacancy in Commission District 15 of Commissioner Ford. He'll be missed. And we all can tell a great story of Commissioner Ford for sure. But at this time, I guess I'll have to ask for a motion to acceptance of the vacancy, notifying that it's open. Commissioner Lott?
Make the motion.
Do I have a second to that motion? Motion made by Commissioner Edens, or second made by Commissioner Edens. Is there any comments or questions before we vote? All right. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion passes and we recognize the vacancy. And this serves as notice to the commission that we need to move forward in this 120-day time period to fill that vacancy. We can fill it any time during that time period. And when the commission is ready to start to fill that vacancy, whether it be in our May 23rd meeting after the primary that Ms. Wilkinson had directed us or had spoke of, or we have to still give notice for candidates. So if that's something we want to discuss this next month after we talk about it, or we're ready to move forward, how that timeline looks. But we would have to, I would probably feel better at least a 30-day notice, at least. But we're all getting awfully close to the primary too, so. We don't have to answer that question tonight. We can come back after further consideration and do it next month.
It's getting from the kitchen floor to med center. And I talked to EMS guy, and he said, we'd love to have them.
Was your representative on that board, Ms. Williams? Me and Commissioner Carriger will be sure and express your,
Commissioner Matherly also.
yes, oh, and Commissioner Davenport.
That's
Yeah.
right. We don't leave
We
him
will
out.
make sure that they understand how important that is.
On the vehicle committee, I believe.
Yeah. He's on the executive.
I think you all denied the funds.
Well, those guys do a great job, I'll tell you that. I know it may be a hard ride sometimes, but they're on it. All right, anything else? Oh, yes. If you would like to serve on the Ag Extension Committee, we need to know that because we are taking volunteers. And that needs to go to committee before Thursday. Did we have any other openings for committees that I need to talk about, Sherry? Yeah, but, so we're going to be calling you this week. We need some folks. I know the Power Board has an opening as well.
The mayor and I were supposed to remind each of you that if you do want a hard copy of the audit report, Sherry can get you one.
All right. All right, anything else before we move to adjourn? Seeing none? We have a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Commissioner Carriger, seconded by Commissioner Jones that we adjourn. All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. All opposed? We're adjourned.